Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. In today's episode, we'll follow the moment Jack is falling apart from fear until a police car finally pulls into the yard and Tu Tien steps out alive. What really happened to her during that freezing night? And can their family heal after such a terrifying disappearance? If you enjoy emotional, dramatic stories like this, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next video. The winter night in Tuttien doesn't just feel cold, it feels endless. Tu Tien is curled on a stone bench in a small city park, knees drawn tight to her chest, arms wrapped around herself, like she can physically hold her body together. The wind slips under her thin jacket and finds every weak spot: her wrists, her throat, the hollow at the base of her back. Her hair is slightly damp from the mist, and each breath comes out shallow, shaky, like her lungs are tired of fighting. She tells herself she's only resting, just 10 minutes, just until the dizziness stops, just until the street lights stop spinning. But the truth is, she has no plan anymore. No phone with a stable signal, no familiar road to follow, no one around who knows her name. In the darkness, the park is a quiet world of its own. Bare trees rattling, a broken swing creaking softly, stray leaves scraping along the walkway. Far away, a motorbike passes, its sound fading fast. Tu Tien tries to stand once, but her legs don't answer the way they should. Her vision swims and she drops back onto the bench, heart hammering, like it's warning her not to be stubborn.
Just breathe, she whispers to herself, voice barely there. Just make it to morning. At some point, the cold stops feeling sharp and starts feeling heavy, like a blanket made of ice. Her fingers go numb, her thoughts blur. She closes her eyes and the world tilts into something between sleep and slipping away. That's when the sound of a broom pulls her back. A soft, steady sweeping, scrape, 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 moving closer. A small circle of light appears on the path, not bright like a flashlight, but the pale glow from an old work lamp. A woman's voice cuts through the quiet. "Hey, miss, are you okay?" Tu Tien's eyes crack open. A middle-aged sanitation worker stands a few steps away, bundled in a thick jacket, face lined from years of early mornings and late nights.
She holds a broom in one hand and a plastic bag in the other. Her expression isn't afraid. It's the kind of practical concern people have when they've seen too many things and still choose kindness anyway. The woman steps closer, careful, like she doesn't want to startle her. "Can you hear me?" she asks. "Are you hurt?" Tu Tien tries to answer, but her lips feel stiff. She swallows and forces her voice out. I'm fine." The woman doesn't believe it for a second. She crouches beside the bench and looks Tu Tien over. Pale face, trembling shoulders, the way her hands are clenched like she's holding on to the last bit of warmth in her body. "You're freezing," the woman says firmly. "Why are you here like this? Where is your family?" Tu Tien stares at the ground. The question lands like a rock in her chest. Family. Home. Jack's voice. Anna's small hands gripping her shirt. Her throat tightens. "I got lost," she says, and even to her own ears it sounds too small to hold everything she's been carrying. The woman's expression softens, but her tone stays serious. "Lost doesn't mean sleeping outside in this weather," she replies. "What's your name?" Tu Tien hesitates. Something in her, fear, embarrassment, the habit of protecting secrets, tries to shut her mouth, but the cold has stripped her down to the simplest truth. She needs help. "Tu Tien," she says. "And where are you from, Tu Tien?" The woman presses gently. Tu Tien's eyes fill without warning. She looks away fast, ashamed of how close she is to breaking. I'm not from here, she admits.
I didn't mean to be here. The sanitation worker exhales through her nose like she's already decided something. All right, she says. Listen to me. You're coming with me. We're going to the police station first. We're not guessing. We're not waiting. You're not staying on this bench. Tu Tien's weak pride sparks. I don't want to cause trouble. This is not trouble. The woman cuts in, sharper now. Trouble is you getting sick out here and nobody knowing until it's too late. She stands and offers her hand. It's rough and warm, the hand of someone who works hard, someone used to lifting weight. Tu Tien stares at it for half a second, then takes it. The moment she tries to stand, her knees wobble. The world tilts again.
The woman catches her immediately, looping an arm around her shoulders like she's done this before. Easy, she says, slow, step by step. Tu Tien leans into the support, cheeks burning with humiliation and relief at the same time. They move through the park at a careful pace. The sanitation worker guides her toward the street, where a small police outpost sits under bright lights. A sign hums softly overhead. The entrance smells like warm tea and paperwork, a strange comfort compared to the raw air outside. Inside, a young officer looks up, startled to see them. "What's going on?" he asks. The woman explains quickly, practical and direct. "I found her in the park. She's cold, weak, and says she's lost. She needs help, and she needs contact with her family." The officer nods, already reaching for a clipboard. "Mom, sit here," he says to Tu Tien, pulling out a chair. Tu Tien lowers herself slowly. The warmth inside makes her body start shaking harder, like it's finally safe enough to feel what it was holding back. The officer offers a cup of hot water. "Drink? Small sips?" Tu Tien obeys. The heat burns her mouth, but it brings her back to herself. The questions come one by one: name, age, where she last remembers being, whether she has any identification. Tu Tien answers what she can, but her memory is foggy around the edges, like someone smudged the timeline. Then the officer asks the most important question. "Do you have a phone number for family, a husband?"
A mother. Tu Tien's hands tremble around the cup. She knows Jack's number by heart. Of course she does. She's dialed it in her mind 100 times, even when she didn't have her phone, like repeating it would keep her connected to home. But saying it out loud makes different fear rise. Fear of what Jack has been living through while she's been gone. Still she speaks. "Yes," she whispers, "my husband. His name is Jack." The officer looks up, pen hovering. "Jack? What?" Tu Tien swallows. "Just Jack. Please, call him." The officer doesn't waste time. He pulls his phone, steps slightly away for privacy and dials. The line rings and rings. Back home, Jack has been awake for far too long.
His body is burning and cold at the same time, sweat soaking the collar of his shirt, chills crawling down his spine. He sits on a low chair near the front yard, staring at the dirt path beyond the gate like the road might suddenly bring her back if he watches hard enough. Mother Loy has tried everything: hot tea, blankets, calm words, but nothing can pull Jack out of this spiral. Not when every hour without news feels like a door locking tighter. Anna is inside, restless in her sleep, waking in small bursts like she's searching for her mother in her dreams. Jack's phone sits in his hand like a lifeline. Every buzz makes his heart jump. Every silence makes it sink again. When it finally rings, Jack almost drops it. He answers instantly, voice rough. "Hello?" A stranger's voice speaks, official and careful. "Is this Jack?" "Sir, this is the police station in Tuyen Quang. We have a woman here who says her name is Tu Tien. She appears cold and exhausted, but she is alive." For a moment, Jack can't breathe. The world narrows to that single sentence. Alive. His throat cracks when he speaks. "Put her on. Please, put her on." The officer turns, phone in hand, and looks at Tu Tien. "Ma'am," he says gently, "your husband is on the line." Tu Tien freezes, the cup still warm between her hands, her heart suddenly too loud inside her chest. Then she reaches for the phone. Tu Tien holds the phone with both hands like it's something fragile. Her fingers are still cold, but the plastic warms quickly against her skin. She takes one breath, then another, trying to steady her voice before she speaks, because she already knows the moment Jack hears her, he's going to break. "Jack," she whispers. On the other end, there's a sound, half inhale, half sob, like his lungs forgot how to work for a second. "Tu Tien, is it really you?" His voice is hoarse, exhausted, and shaking in a way that makes her chest ache. "Where are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm here," she says quickly. "I'm at a police station in Tuyen Quang. I'm okay. I'm cold and I'm tired, but I'm okay." Jack doesn't answer right away. She can hear him breathing hard, like he's holding himself upright with sheer will. "I thought..." He starts, then stops. "I thought I lost you." Tu Tien closes her eyes. The guilt hits like a wave, heavy and sharp.
"I'm sorry," she says. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Don't apologize to me," Jack says, suddenly firm through the emotion. "Just tell me what you need. I'm coming." The officer gently motions that time is limited, but Tu Tien speaks fast. "There's a woman here," she adds, voice softer. "A sanitation worker. She found me in the park. She saved me." Jack's voice cracks again. "Tell her thank you. Tell her I'll thank her myself." The officer takes the phone back, speaking calmly. "Sir, your wife is safe with us. She's weak from the cold. We can arrange to bring her back to your address if you confirm details, or you can come here if you prefer." Jack doesn't hesitate. "Please bring her. I'm not sure I can drive that far right now." His words land with weight.
Tu Tien flinches, realizing what her disappearance did to him. She imagines him searching roads, calling everyone, sleeping in bursts. She imagines Anna reaching for her and not understanding why her mother isn't there. She swallows hard. "Is Anna okay?" she blurts out, leaning toward the officer's phone. Jack answers instantly, voice softer now. "Anna is here. Mother Loy is watching her. She keeps waking up and looking around. She misses you." Tu Tien's eyes fill. "Tell her I'm coming home." "I will," Jack says, like a promise he's afraid to say too loudly. "Just, please don't disappear again. Not like this." "I won't," she whispers. "I'm coming back." The call ends. The room feels suddenly quiet, like the world paused after the storm. The officer writes down Jack's address and confirms the route. The sanitation worker, her name is Mai, stays nearby, arms crossed protectively, watching Tu Tien with a steady, no-nonsense care. "Your husband sounds like a good man," Mai says. Tu Tien nods, unable to speak for a moment. "He is." Mai sighs and shakes her head. "Then you don't make him suffer like that again. Life is hard enough without turning your own home into a place of fear." Tu Tien's voice comes out small. "I didn't choose it." Mai softened slightly. "Maybe not." But now you choose what happens next. You let people help you. They wait while the officers arrange a ride. Someone brings a thicker blanket and a small packet of bread. Tu Tien takes a few bites, not because she's hungry, but because she knows she needs strength. The warmth and food make her shaky, like her body is finally letting go of the fight it held all night. By late morning, the police car is ready. Mai insists on walking Tu Tien to the door. If you ever come back to this city, Mai says, you remember that park bench is not a home. You find a door, you knock, you ask. Tu Tien looks at her, overwhelmed by the kindness of a stranger. I will, she promises. Thank you. If you didn't stop, I don't know what would have happened. Mai waves it off like she's embarrassed by praise. Go home, that's thanks enough. The car pulls away. Inside, Tu Tien watches the city pass by through the window, street lights now replaced by pale daylight, wet sidewalks, people living normal lives. It feels unreal that the world kept moving while hers fell apart. She presses her forehead lightly to the glass. Just a little longer, she tells herself. Just get home. Back at Jack's house, the morning has been slow and heavy. Jack sits under the eaves near the front yard, wrapped in a thin jacket that doesn't quite hide how sick he looks. His face is pale, eyes sunken, and every few minutes he wipes sweat from his forehead like he can't understand how he can be both burning and freezing at the same time. Mother Ly is inside, moving quietly between the kitchen and the bedroom, trying to keep the house steady. Uncle Dung has been doing the practical things, feeding the dogs, boiling water, checking Jack's temperature, making sure the gate stays closed. No one says it out loud, but they're all watching Jack like he might collapse if the wrong sentence lands too hard. Around noon, Jack stares down the road again, blinking slowly. Uncle Dung steps beside him. You need to lie down. Jack shakes his head. If I lie down, I'm afraid I'll miss the moment she comes back. Mother Ly appears at the doorway with a bowl of hot porridge. Eat a little, she says gently. You can't keep standing with an empty stomach. Jack takes the bowl, but his hands tremble. He eats 2 spoonfuls, then stops, eyes locked on the road again. And then, finally, there's the sound. A car engine, not a motorbike, not a neighbor passing through. A steady vehicle moving slowly into their lane. Jack's whole body stiffens. The dogs start barking, sprinting toward the gate.
Uncle Dung moves automatically, holding them back. The car approaches and Jack's heart seems to stop mid-beat. When the police vehicle pulls into view, Jack stands too fast, swaying for a second. Mother Ly rushes forward, hand on his arm. Careful, she warns. Jack doesn't hear her. The car door opens. An officer steps out first, scanning the yard. Then the second door opens and Tu Tien appears, wrapped in a blanket, hair messy, face pale, but standing. For 1 second, Jack just stares like his eyes can't accept what they're seeing. Then Tu Tien takes a step, and Jack moves. He crosses the yard like his fever doesn't exist, like his body is powered by something stronger than sickness. Tu Tien tries to walk faster, but her legs are still weak, and she sways slightly.
Jack reaches her before she can take another step. He grabs her, carefully at first, like she might disappear if he holds too tight. Then he pulls her into him with a trembling force that turns into a full-body shake. You're here, he says into her hair, voice breaking. You're actually here. Tu Tien clutches his shirt with both hands, pressing her face against his chest like she's trying to memorize the warmth. I'm home, she whispers. Jack's shoulders start to shake. He tries to hide it, but he can't. Tears slip out, silent and helpless. Mother Ly stands a few feet away, crying openly now. Uncle Dung rubs his face hard, blinking fast like he refuses to be seen breaking too. The officer clears his throat gently, giving them space. "Sir, Ma'am, we'll need a brief statement later, but right now we just wanted her safe." Jack nods without letting go. "Thank you," he says, voice raw. "Thank you for bringing her back." Tu Tien lifts her head slightly and looks at the officer. "Thank you," she repeats, then turns, scanning the yard as if something is missing from the picture. "Anna?" she asks, panic flickering. Mother Ly wipes her cheeks quickly. "Inside. She's been napping. She woke up earlier and kept looking for you." Tu Tien's breath catches. "Can I see her?" Mother Ly nods and steps aside. "Come." Jack keeps one hand on Tu Tien's back as they move inside, like he's afraid she'll vanish between the doorway and the hallway. The house smells like warm water and ginger. It's simple, familiar, safe. In the bedroom, Anna is lying on the mat, just waking up. Her small face is puffy with sleep, hair tied into two little braids that stick out slightly. She blinks at the light, then her eyes land on Tu Tien. For a second, Anna just stares, frozen like her brain is making sure it's real. Then her mouth opens. "Mama," she says softly, like she's testing the word. Tu Tien drops to her knees. "Yes," she whispers, arms opening wide. "Mama's here." Anna scrambles forward, clumsy and determined, and crashes into Tu Tien's chest. Tu Tien hugs her so tight her whole body shakes, and she buries her face in Anna's hair, like she's been starving for this exact moment. Jack stands in the doorway watching them, tears still on his cheeks, fever still burning in his skin. And somehow, despite everything, his face finally loosens, like the world just gave him oxygen again. Mother Ly speaks quietly behind him. "Now you can lie down." Jack doesn't look away from his wife and daughter. "In a minute," he says. "Just let me watch this, just for a minute." Tu Tien looks up at him, eyes swollen with emotion. "I'm sorry," she whispers again. Jack steps closer, kneels beside them, and cups her cheek gently. "Not now," he says, voice firm but soft. "Right now you're home. That's all I care about." Outside, the winter wind still moves through the trees. But inside this small house, the cold has finally lost the fight. After a long winter night in a Tuyen Quang city park, Tu Tien is found curled on a cold stone bench. Near midnight, a street cleaner sees her shivering, checks she's alive, and asks her name, health, and why she is alone. Seeing she's exhausted and confused, the woman escorts Tu Tien to the local police station to report the case, then brings her home to warm up and rest. Meanwhile, Jack is unraveling. With no news, he runs on no sleep, develops a fever from stress, and sits in the yard all morning, staring at the gate. Around noon, a car pulls in. Police step out and guide Tu Tien into the yard. Jack bolts forward, and the two embrace, crying hard, relief, guilt, gratitude, and a happiness they thought was gone with neighbors watching in stunned silence.